Hello, Reds, and welcome back to Rousing the Cop, where the international break is finally winding down and we're looking ahead to the real football getting back underway this weekend. I'm James Brooke, and I'm joined as ever by Freddie Dorman. And well, I say as ever, Freddie, you were off enjoying your own international break this week, weren't you? I believe you're in a city very special to Liverpool fans in Madrid. How was it, mate?
Yeah, thank you. It was really nice, but let's just say Trent's made a mistake because it's not as nice as at Anfield when I went to the Bernabeu. So
It definitely isn't, mate. And the less said about Trent, the better for sure. But good. I'm glad to have you back, mate. And like I say, we are all looking forward to the end of the international break. It's always a bit of a pain. And it's finally winding down. So we're going to just check in on what's been going on, Freddie, in a kind of Liverpool context. And also we're going to look ahead to that return to Premier League action this Sunday at Burnley. So we're going to put a bit of a spotlight on our midfield maestro today, Florian Wirtz, who has been having a bit of an up and down international break, it's fair to say. So he's received a little bit of criticism from his manager at Germany, Julian Nagelsmann, but he also scored an absolutely fantastic free kick as well. So plenty to talk about with Florian, and we're also, like I said, going to look ahead to that game against Burnley. So let's get into it, Freddie, and let's kick off with Mr. Wirtz. Herr Wirtz, he's a bit of an enigma so far in a Liverpool shirt. I think it's fair to say he hasn't really hit the ground running as we might have expected, and there has been a bit of a few comments from his managers. I mentioned that from Nagelsmann, who's kind of been urging him to be a bit smarter kind of on and off the ball. I know Arne Slot's made some similar comments, not necessarily focused at Wirtz, but talking about how all of his players can be a little bit smarter in terms of winning free kicks and being a bit nasty and that kind of thing. So, we will talk about the free kick in a second, but first of all, where do you think it's kind of going wrong for Wirtz? And do you think Nagelsmann's comments about him being a bit smarter are fair?
yeah, I don't think Wirtz, to be honest, has been as bad as everyone's made out. I just think the 160 million, there's going to be a lot of, spotlight's going to be on him. And like in that Slovakia game again, he wasn't nowhere near as bad as the rest of the players around him. It's just because the fact he struggled a bit at Liverpool early on that people maybe picked out things that he's done. But I just think, like any player, he just needs time to adjust and time to settle. Maybe those comments from Nagelsmann were, they were okay, but like you said, Slot didn't actually aim them at Wirtz specifically. He did it at the whole Liverpool team. So the fact that he was singling Wirtz out, maybe again, that wasn't the right thing to do from Nagelsmann. But I just think he needs time to settle. And like we saw in that game last night, he was not back to his best, but he was certainly close to it.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think it's been the spotlight on him is the one thing that you can really say has probably altered the way that we perceive his performances. I actually thought he was really good in the second half against Arsenal, to be honest. I think he has struggled he does look like he likes an extra touch, and I think he's probably learning that he can't take an extra touch in the Premier League. But I thought there were signs there against Arsenal that he was kind of learning that, and I thought he was more effective. I think for Germany, obviously, Jamal Musiala's injured at the moment. That's putting a little bit more of the kind of creative pressure on Wirtz. And like you said, the spotlight with that big price tag, being that central kind of figure. And also that Germany, as you mentioned, Freddie, are not particularly good at the moment. So it's difficult for him to raise the level of the full team in that kind of sense. But there was a ray of light on Sunday because we saw the real Florian Wirtz. So after that kind of pressure from Nagelsmann and maybe certain areas of the German press as well, he stepped up and delivered a wonderful free kick against Northern Ireland. Conor Bradley in the wall could only watch it go over his head. And I know you've written a piece today, Freddie, that can be a real confidence booster for Florian heading into that Burnley game. It comes at the right time for him, doesn't it? And you could see in his celebration that he has carried a weight with him for the full season so far. He was looking to silence the kind of critics, and he did that with that free kick.
Yeah, it was a really good celebration, but an even better free kick, wasn't it? It was not as good as Szoboszlai's the other week against Arsenal, but the fact that there's two free kick goals like that in 1 week, it's a really good sign for Liverpool because, if we can't break a team down and we need it, a bit like Arsenal, they might need a set piece. It looks like we've got two players that can do that for us. But yeah, Wirtz, he played well. And that free kick hopefully should be sort of kick-starting that form that we've seen that he had at Leverkusen. And also he created, I think, the most chances in the game. He was the most fouled player as well. All these things are just good signs going into a game against Burnley because that's something we're going to need against a team that are probably they're quite good defensively, aren't they? So we're going to need something like that against them.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. A moment of magic, and that's almost what he was bought for. Not necessarily free kicks, but those moments where you need to break down a team like Burnley, and we know he can do it, and he's just proven that once again. I think something that might also help him, Freddie, is that he no longer has that tag as being Britain's most expensive ever footballer. I mean, he didn't have it for long, but it has been taken by a new teammate of his in Alexander Isak. And I just wanted to ask you about the kind of relationship that might blossom or will hopefully blossom between Wirtz and Isak, because I actually dug out some comments from Isak from about 2 years ago the other day, where he was speaking about playing alongside David Silva at Real Sociedad. And of course, David Silva, I mean, a beautiful footballer, technically amazing, creatively kind of on a par with anybody ever in history, really. So Isak played with him for a short time and really enjoyed it. He said that it was great playing with somebody who you know is going to find you if you make the run, basically. Wirtz is a similar player in that kind of style. The two have drawn comparisons in the past. So do you think that kind of is a relationship that we'll start seeing more of? And do you think that is something that can also help Wirtz going forward?
Oh, absolutely. I don't see how Alexander Isak hinders Florian Wirtz at all. I think he's only going to make him a better player, which is a really frightening prospect, to be honest. Like you said, the David Silva and Isak connection was something really good. We had, the Gerrard and Torres in the past, for example. They really could be those type of players, because if Isak's running in behind, Wirtz will be able to find him. If we can't quite do that because the defence is quite resolute, Isak's more than capable of dropping in, taking the ball and then giving it back to Wirtz later down the line. I just think these two, they have so many combinations together that they are a really frightening prospect. And then if you add in the likes of Mohamed Salah and even Hugo Ekitike as well, who are also capable of doing those things, I don't see how this transfer is going to hinder us at all. And I think Premier League defences, they're going to have to be very worried.
Absolutely, they are. I mean, it's not as though Ekitike, as you said, they've played together already. We saw, especially in the Community Shield, right from the start, Ekitike and Wirtz with some really good link-up play. Already they're building a relationship. You throw Isak into the mix as well, and it's only going to get better, really. And now that final piece of the puzzle is in there, hopefully it should mean that Wirtz can fully settle into the team. He knows who's going to be ahead of him. He knows where Ekitike is going to be. He knows where Salah's going to be. And it will be fascinating to see how Slot does fit them all into the team, because there's so many different variations, but it also, all of them lead to Liverpool looking incredibly attacking. So we'll have to wait and see how that kind of goes. And the first sign, or the first kind of clues around that, may be coming this weekend, Freddie. As I said, away at Burnley, Turf Moor is never an especially comfortable place to go. I mean, Liverpool have a very good record against Burnley. They've won 14 of the last 18. The last game was a 3-1 win at Anfield when Burnley were on the way down in February in 2024. So it's not an easy place to go. We know Liverpool's record on the back of international breaks is not brilliant, Freddie. They did lose this game last year against Forest at Anfield, surprisingly. Arne Slot never forgot it. So have you got any trepidation going into this? But more importantly, do you think we're going to see that link up, first of all, between Wirtz and Isak? Obviously, we know the situation regarding his match fitness. Are you expecting him to play any part at all at Turf Moor?
Like you said, we're never very good after the international break, but the only silver lining is that it's not a 12:30 kickoff, so we have a bit more time to recover, because we're never very good with them. But in terms of Alexander Isak playing, I don't see it at all, to be honest. He didn't play for Sweden the first game, and I just don't think that he's going to have the match fitness needed. And you spent so much money on him. He's had injury problems in the past. I think he averages sort of 9 games a season he misses in the league. I don't see why we would risk him for that price. We will make sure he's fully fit. Then when that time comes, put him into the team, because Hugo Ekitike has done brilliantly and he doesn't deserve to be dropped for a start. So I don't see, unless you're going to play them together, why Isak would play. But with Burnley away, it's not a pushover, is it? They're going to be very resolute defensively. They nearly got a result against Manchester United the other week. First game against Tottenham, they didn't do too well, but they did defend well to start with. But when that first goal went in, their heads did drop. And I just think they're going to be very defensively sound, that we're going to need the likes of Florian Wirtz to have that time on the ball, pick a pass out and try and break the deadlock. But it's not going to be an easy game like everyone is perhaps thinking.
No, especially not away from home. I mean, Burnley as well obviously have a few internationals in the squad these days. including a teammate of Isak's at Sweden, Ekdal, but they don't have as many as Liverpool. They may be a little bit more fresh. One problem in the past with these international fixtures, like you said, the 12:30s. I think TNT don't put us on at 12:30 anymore now that Klopp's gone. They had the fun with him, and now they're not as interested anymore now that they can't upset him. But one of the problems was that Liverpool had a lot of South American players with Diaz, McAllister, Alisson, and Darwin Núñez all regularly coming back from really long trips away. And that has impacted Liverpool in the past. McAllister didn't play actually for Argentina, their first fixture. Obviously, we know Núñez and Diaz have both gone. So in terms of that, do you think Slot did learn early last year to make those changes. McAllister, after that Forest game, I think didn't play on the back of the international breaks. But with less kind of churn in that respect, do you see Slot making changes in this one, or do you think he'll kind of more or less go with what we saw last time out?
I think, to be honest, we didn't play well against Arsenal, but we got the win. But I do think if you look at that 11, that probably is one of our strongest, if not the strongest 11 we could possibly have fielded at that time. And I don't see any changes, to be honest. The one you might say is, would you put Conor Bradley at right back? Because obviously he's back fit. But Szoboszlai's been so good that I personally would keep him there, especially against the Burnley that will probably sit back against us. That creativity from right back, like Alexander Arnold used to do, is only going to help us. And then if you add Florian Wirtz to that as well, I just think he has to start probably. And then with Isak probably not fully fit, I don't see him starting, and it'll be the usual front three of Gakpo, Ekitike, and Salah. And in midfield again, I think McAllister and Gravenberch didn't play for Netherlands, which is probably a good thing for us because we need him fully fit and fresh. I think it's probably the same 11 that we went for against Arsenal.
Yeah, I think that would be wise. I mean, we know that Slot doesn't like to rotate too much. The only thing to mention, Freddie, is that there is a game, of course, coming up in midweek. The Champions League starts. Atletico Madrid are coming to Anfield. So do you think he'll have one eye on that, or do you think he will just look to keep that kind of a continuity in the squad going? The derby is on the Saturday. Actually, there is a 12:30 the following weekend, the Merseyside derby. So you don't envisage him making changes with those in mind. You think he will just continue to play those players. And when do you think Isak will make his debut is the real question. Do you think he will come into that game in the Champions League? That feels like a big occasion. Maybe, like you said, it might be better just to ease him slowly into that. And then the derby, that's not really a game to make your kind of debut in. Although I've seen big kind of similarities between Isak and Virgil van Dijk in the mannerisms, the way that they speak, the kind of the strength of the signing, the what it says as a signing. He, of course, made his debut against Everton and got that big goal to win the game. Do you think that's when we'll see Isak come in, or do you think it will be more a case of a few weeks down the line where he's had time to bed in and we'll see him maybe come off the bench in a lesser game?
Yeah, as a fan, I think everyone wants Isak to play that game, don't they? And have that Virgil van Dijk moment where he scores the winner. But I think Arne Slot will be thinking very differently. And like I said, you wouldn't want to risk a player of that stature, that price tag with the injury record as well. I really do think it's seeing him in this month, I think might be a struggle, to be honest. And I think we could 5-10 minutes here or there. But I think the first start, to be honest, I wouldn't be surprised if it even came next month.
Yeah, I think you're right. Slot isn't going to mess around with him. He's going to take it easy with him, isn't he, for sure? Right, thank you very much, Freddie. That's a great little preview ahead to what we've got in store this weekend. What do you think, guys? If you're listening, let us know. Do you think Isak will start against Burnley? Are you excited to see the link up between him and Florian Wirtz? And what have you made of the Reds over the kind of international weekend? I was going to say it's about a fortnight, isn't it? It's a long kind of job. But anyway, thank you everybody for listening, and we'll see you next time. Remember to like and subscribe, follow us on all the social media channels, and we'll see you again. Up the Reds.